Let's be real. Marketing for your company can feel like a full-time job on top of your actual full-time job. You think about hiring an agency, that's too expensive. Building an in-house team, that's too much of a hassle. What about doing it yourself? Forget about that. That's where ProMode changes the game. It's an AI-powered marketing platform built for B2B businesses that handles all of your marketing. That means the blogs, social media, emails, SEO, all of that at 10 times the speed that an agency can do it. And here's the kicker. It costs just $2,500 a month, and it has zero headaches and no hidden fees. And if you're skeptical about that, just try it risk-free with a 30-day money-back guaranteed. If you're tired of marketing getting in the way of running your business, head over to our friends at ProMode and finally get marketing handled without the stress. And don't forget to use code KCBC when you sign up to waive your $5,000 onboarding fee. All right, everybody, welcome to episode 51 here on Kansas City Business Cast. This season has been amazing so far. I have been so impressed with all of our guests up to this point, the feedback that we've gotten from, some of our earlier ones like Mitchell and Esau and Adam. This one is proving to be just one of the best seasons that we've done yet. In true fashion of upping the bar even more and more and more, I have a very special guest today. I've got James Regina in the house. He is the owner and operator of Stay Ready Performance. He's also a pro MMA fighter. So, James, welcome to the show, brother. I'm so glad to have you.
What's up?
Man, so hey, I got a quick little special gift for you, and then a funny little question, and we'll kind of get into it here.
Yeah.
But for all of our guests on season 5, we've had Black Drip Coffee. They are local to Kansas City, run by Sharon and Dan. You're familiar with them?
I've heard of them, yeah.
I love it, man. So I'll get you the information after this, but we're going to give you a free bag of their Renegade blend. So ground beans, man, I'll get you all that stuff, no charge.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, we'll get that sent out to you. So my first question for you, James, because you're though it's been well documented, I know there are new layers that get opened up every time you come on a podcast, and I know that you especially love doing these types of things. One of the most important things I could ask you: how did Tap for Cash go today, bro?
So it was awesome. So I had 3 guys come up. 2 I kind of rolled with before, and 1 I hadn't. They were Scott, this guy named Jester, and this other guy named Zach Long. Some guys I trained with professionally for MMA, other guys I used to roll with, especially when I started out. It was good. I just kind of started Taps for Cash because in the local Kansas City community, everybody kind of used to cross-train before I got into the sport almost 9 years ago. And then it kind of like people started sectioning off and like doing their own little thing and not really venturing out. And my gym's up in Platte City, the main one I train at. I cross-train at another gym off North Oak, Ignite MMA also. Lone Wolf MMA, 10th Planet Kansas City is actually up in Platte City. And so, sometimes people don't want to drive or things. And I get it, Platte City is like a 30-minute drive, cool. It's maybe 40 if you're south of KC, but it was good. So I was like, hey, I'm going to put $100 down. And then my coach was like, I'll put $100 down. And then New Hope Regeneration, they're one of my sponsors, and they do stem cells around the country, and they do a lot of Jitsu tournaments, and they sponsor a lot. So they put $100 down, and then we had some gift cards from Jithead MMA, which they do a bunch of clothing and jiu-jitsu stuff. They put 2 gift cards down. So exactly, they do the TBA stuff.
Yep.
And so we basically there was like $500, $550 up for grabs, more or less, between gift cards and cash, and we only had 3 dudes sign up. So 3 dudes came up. I did 6 minutes with each of them back to back, and nobody got money today. So nobody.
Because that was the thing. If they tap, if you had to tap, it was.
Yeah, I had to tap, and that's the thing. I could tap you as many times as possible in 6 minutes, but I got nothing out of this. You had no startup fee. You had no hey, you got to put $10 down so James can get lunch today. None of that. It was just show up and like try to make me, for lack of a better word, your B word, and you can have $100. And that didn't happen.
Man, man.
So we're doing it again next week, which will be the this next week. And depending on how many guys sign up, I left my $100 there for this week. So next week it might be $200 if you can tap me.
Well, man, you know who I'm thinking of, right? Who needs to sign up? I know he's a busy guy, but Gabriel, you need to get your ass out there, bro.
Yeah. I'll pay him just $10 to show up.
Yeah,
I'll pay him for his gas.
dude, when and that's, I usually tell my guests, my audience, how I met my guests, and that was how I got introduced to you, right? Was through Gabriel and seeing you on TBA. And man, Gabriel, I was going through my messages this morning. He wanted me to give you a hard time about something, man, and I can't remember what it was, but
it was probably about him beating me up or being my restaurant or some shit like that. I'm sure it is. He likes to. Him and his buddy Luke like to talk a lot of crap.
Yeah.
Like Luke's a black belt, Gabe's a blue belt, and they just both like to talk a lot of crap. And then
Yeah.
talk a lot of crap to me, but like about each other through me. So they're like, Luke said this about you, James. And like, it's like I'm the middleman. It's like I'm the weird middle brother who's like, so
dude,
it just happened.
Amazing, man. So
That's
moderator.
fantastic. Yeah.
You know, and dude, just because, you know, I know you're very passionate about, you know, where you've come from. You've made it clear too about, you know, who you are today definitely wasn't, you know, a natural process. You had to go through a lot and stuff. So, you know, in a word, what would you say, you know, you're most passionate about right now in your journey? We know that you run Stay Ready Performance. Maybe you could talk about your, you know, the type of therapy you do, and then, you know, what's happening in MMA, and we'll just kind of drill from there.
Yeah. So in a word, I mean, if I'm multifaceted in the passions I have, right? I'm very good, and my friends or girlfriend might say it's different. I'm really good at compartmentalizing things. I'm like cutting things off, and they each have their own little box. Good or bad, I'm really good at that. So like box A doesn't mix with box B, and box B doesn't mix with box C. And we kind of keep them all separate, and I shift gears in between all of them. So I do that a lot with my professional work life and my MMA life, because they're two different things. One is healing people and one is hurting people, right? Like it's the dynamic yin and yang, right? So for Stay Ready, you know, I started out at a local gym in Kansas City back before COVID, and it was a great opportunity. My uncle was kind of the manager at the time, and he knew I'd lost a lot of weight because all the way up through my teen years, I would say about 12, 13 through 22, 23, I started at probably 130 pounds, like normal-ish size for a teenager, like not overweight. And by the time I got to 22, I was about 350 to 370 pounds.
And you're over 6 feet tall, right?
Yeah, I'm 6'4". So like I'm taller, but still 350 plus pounds is still a big guy.
Right, absolutely.
I had a lot of chins. There was a lot of chin action. So at 22, I found out like, hey man, like you're healthy, but your heart's gonna give out on you in your 30s if you keep going down this track of gaining weight, and not like your heart's just gonna give out on you because it's gonna have to work too hard. So that was kind of the change I needed to get better and kind of refocus on what I was supposed to do. Because I always lifted weights. I just never focused on the food side, and I never took that serious. And I was kind of that guy, like everybody thinks of, like, we don't do cardio. I'm not going to run from anybody. I'm just going to like outlift them because that makes sense in any word or any way. So I was like, okay, I got to make a change. So I started adding cardio in, and I started changing my food, and I went through probably every diet there was. I did low carb, I did keto, they didn't have carnivore at the time, so we did keto. And then I did vegan. I was vegan for a year, so I didn't eat meat for a year. And then I did like Weight Watchers, Atkins, blah, 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 and all the things. And I just came back to, I had to figure out, because I had such a horrible relationship with food, because I got so big, because I used the food as an emotional crutch for things that happened in my life as a teenager to kind of take the pain away, more or less. And then I got to college, and college stress, going to class, tests, things like that.
What did you study in college, by the way?
I was actually a music major. So I was a classical guitar major and music technology major.
Whoa. Okay.
So I did use that for about 4 years, and I toured with bands and then worked for the Chiefs at the Chiefs Stadium, running audio for the games and stuff.
That's amazing. So you did pro audio for bands. Which bands did you tour with? I have to ask because I
Nothing,
was in a
nothing,
band.
nothing crazy. There was one. The main one I did stuff for was called Sweet Ascent out of Lawrence. They were kind of like pop punk, a little bit
Okay.
of screamo
What a
back in
trip.
like the early 2000 or like I'd say shit, yeah, early 2000s, mid 2000s, right after college. And then Blood on the Dance Floor. They were like an emo pop punk band.
Okay.
They were funny dudes, really interesting dudes. And then kind of just here and there, I worked at like the Bottleneck and the bigger one in Lawrence, like
The
the
Granada.
Granada.
Yeah.
I did shows at like Whiskey Tango in Hollywood. I did Double Trees in Texas. Like did all these bigger venues, kind of historical. I got to run audio where like Eminem actually got his start, like the actual place, not the one based off the
Wow,
movie.
bro.
Yeah, I'm in Detroit, so I got to actually run audio there. So like really, really cool stuff. Just like it feels like a lifetime difference because that's
Yeah.
when I was a little bit bigger. I drank a lot more. I did
Yeah.
other things a lot more.
I love, dude, I know that was a little segue. I want to get back to the stress of the college too. I love how you called the whiskey a go-go the whiskey tango.
Yeah, whatever. The
I'm going to
Whiskey
call
Go
it the
Go.
whiskey tango from now on
Well, there was
because
the
my
Whiskey
band was
Tango in
playing there.
KC.
Oh, there.
There's the whiskey. There's a
Really?
Whiskey Tango in KC.
Okay. Okay.
And so yes, Whiskey Go Go. I always fuck that up. Regardless, I always call it the wrong one because Whiskey Tango. Before I ever did MMA, they used to have fights at the Whiskey Tango in Kansas City,
Wait, that's
and like
right.
they would pull dudes out of the crowd. Like my coach has told me stories. They'd pull dudes out of the crowd to fight the pro fighters that or the amateurs that should have been about pro because their fight fell through. And there's dudes like smoking and drinking, throwing beer bottles, and like it was crazy. It was like the most. It was any cage fight you've ever seen from any movie ever. That's what it was. Like you had dudes drunk who were stepping in the cage to fight professional fighters. Nuts.
Dude, that sounds like some gladiator blood sport
It was
type
like
stuff.
Roadhouse, kind of on steroids. Like it was is what I never went, but that's what I heard.
Wow, bro.
So yeah,
So yeah, you were
that was
going
kinda,
through college, going through the
so I was
stress.
going through college. Get back to my point. Yeah, going
Appreciate you,
through
man.
college,
Thanks for
stressed.
derailing with me.
Yeah, so I was going through college. I was practicing guitar all the time. I had some like brain issues that happened, so like that fucked me up. I was taking like medications that like trying to play guitar and my hands would like tremor all the time and like they fucked with my hormones, and so I started like being really angry all the time because they like made you short. Anyway, I had to like figure out all these medications and things, and then food got worse, and they talk about the freshman 15. It was like the freshman 45 for me. So it just all spiraled, and I just got to a point that I just like had enough, and so I had to figure out how to at 22, right before I started touring with bands and finishing college. I had to figure out how to kind of get that back on track because I just was unhappy with everything. I was always the very like please everybody type of guy, yes man. Like I wanted everybody to like me, but I thought liking me because I was so out of shape and so fat and so like unlovable, quote unquote, especially for girls in my life and like dates I'd been on and girlfriends was I had to please everybody, and I also had to be like a purse for everybody. Like I had to have the money. So I worked really hard to kind of please everybody, and it just wasn't. And so I never wanted to unplease anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even if I didn't agree with something, I would say something to please them, and just like have no backbone and just let them walk all over me from girlfriends, friends, whatever it was. So it just kind of really messed with my psyche a little bit, and then made my weight fluctuate. I would look for if I did get into a fight with a girlfriend or a friend or have a bad day at work because I was managing a cell phone store at the time at like 19, 20, like being the boss to like 30-year-olds and like and doing all that plus 12 to 16-hour credit hours and all this stuff, doing all that things, practicing guitar a couple hours a day, and it just kind of all got to me, and so I just had to figure it out, like how do I do this and how. And so that's when I started to look at my food and I started to make my health a priority, and I kind of like undid everything. Like undid everything in my life.
Mention Kansas City business owners making 100,000 a year or more. Let's talk about your finances. They could be a mess and that could cost you big, right? Are you wasting hours in QuickBooks? Are you misclassifying transactions? Are you making tax mistakes? Obviously, that's all money down the drain or worse, an IRS fine. Silverstone Bookkeeping has helped 50 plus businesses clean up their books fast. Now, for a limited time, they're offering a QuickBooks diagnostic review and tax saving session for just $150. That's usually a $500 value. Within 48 hours, they'll flag 8 to 25 key fixes and uncover potential tax savings for your business. Give them a call at 913-732-4151 or visit silverstonebookkeeping.com now.
Right.
Man, so I can definitely that resonates with me so much. Just the people pleasing, health spiraling out of control, using food as a medication to fill a hole that something like I think honestly too in my relationship with God, like only Jesus can fill that hole, right? Like there's
100%.
like there's I think every addiction, honestly, when you boil it down to the core, is we're medicating something. And what you've probably found, and I know we'll get to, but I found too, like if you quit something, you'd better find something better to replace that thing, right? You got to embrace to replace. I've heard it said. So, with all that, just sort of, I mean, I define it as rage, right? Because that's, for me personally, it was like when I was pushing 300 pounds and before I lost 135 pounds, it was just this who I am hates who I've been sort of mentality. And that actually, it's crazy how that actually does drive some things on this podcast, believe it or not, like staying consistent with this. It's weird. It's like I'm trying to Fedor Emelianenko, right? They asked him, why do you fight so hard, right? And he said, because I remember when I was poor. I remember when I couldn't pay the bills. And I fight so that I never become that guy ever again. I thought that was a beautiful way to put it. But how did you decide, like, so we got that you wanted to improve your health. You started to fix your diet. Where did you come to this point where, you wanted to fight and this concept of stay ready? Like, what was the genesis of that?
So fighting kind of came actually from heartbreak. So how that normal things goes. You lose a girlfriend, you pick up something else, right?
Mm.
So I was touring and doing audio for bands, and had been doing it for probably 2 to 3 years, and I'd maybe been home like 6 months in that time, in that 2 to 3 years, like actually total time home 6 months. So I'd miss a couple nieces. I have 3 nieces and a nephew. I'd missed a lot of their birthdays. I'd missed a lot of family. Before I knew it, I was like mid-20s now, 25-ish, going on 26. And I was just like, well, shit, I don't know what life is anymore. I've been on the road more or less for 3 years with a little month off here, month off there, month off here. What am I doing? I wasn't making bad money, but I wasn't making anything good. Like, it wasn't great. And I was working for the Chiefs a little bit, doing some shows for them, and that's fun. But it wasn't fulfilling. Nothing was really fulfilling my life anymore. You felt fulfilled on the road, but you didn't feel fulfilled when you were at home. So, and fulfilled on the road wasn't even fulfilled. It was just you were busy. So you were like, oh, and it's new people, new this or that, new audio system, new show, new people to talk to, new girls to flirt with, things like that when you're single and stuff and traveling. Anyway, so then I ended up stopping touring, and I was working for the Chiefs, and then started dating this girl, and we dated for about a year. And towards the end of that, I was like getting done with the Chiefs and kind of putting audio behind me more or less. And like, all right, what do I want to do with my life? I'm 25, 24, 25. So I started working overnights at Hy-Vee just to like have some job till I figure out what I'm going to do with myself, because I wanted to make money and not be a bum, even though I was a bum. So my buddy Jake, he worked overnights, and this was up in St. Joe. And he just kept bugging me to go to this jiu-jitsu class in Platte City. And I was like, nah, man, my girlfriend says I don't have enough time already. Like, I don't have for her, because I work overnights and then I sleep all day. And like, you know how that story goes. There's never enough time in a day. And so then one night I come in and I'm all like sad and like kind of like slumped over. And he's like, what's wrong? He's like, what happened? And I was like, oh, like my girlfriend and me broke up. And he's like, without missing a beat, like didn't even ask me how emotional I was. He's like, oh, so you can come to class tomorrow. Like, he didn't even give a crap about it. He's like, oh, so you can come to class tomorrow. And I was like, well, shit, I guess so. Like, I've told you for 6 months I couldn't come because I had a girlfriend, so I don't have any excuse. So sure.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to class, which, funny enough, like, that wasn't my first time doing jiu-jitsu. My first time doing jiu-jitsu was when I was like 14, 15 with my youth pastor at the church I went to. What would happen is it was me, my buddy Gage, and our buddy Michael, and another guy. and he would have us over to watch the UFC when they had like 2 a year. Well, then he like trained martial arts, but then we started to watch like jujitsu online, and he was like, "Oh, we're gonna learn how to do it, guys." So
It's just
he would just beat the
jailhouse
crap.
Matt.
He would just beat the crap out of us in his basement or the youth room at the church. And beat the crap out of us is a hard term. Like, he didn't hurt us, but he definitely choked the crap out of us. I went to like, one of my buddies went to sleep one time. I almost went to sleep one time. And then he put one of the guys to sleep. He's like, "I want to know what it's like to go to sleep." He put him to sleep, and then like the head pastor's wife walks through the door as this dude's on the floor, like shaking because he just got choked out. So like, so I knew like a guillotine, like, which is a choke, obviously.
Yeah.
I knew a triangle choke, which is with your legs, and I knew how to like kind of not get wrestled.
Right.
So I go in, and at least like I have a little training. So I'm like, oh, I can probably hold my own against these guys. Like, it's gonna be fine. I got destroyed, like Donald Trump hands, destroyed. And so I just got murdered for like the whole night, like by every dude who was like, "I've been doing this for 2 months," and I'm like, "You just kicked the shit out of me. Like, what am I supposed to do with my life?"
Absolutely.
And as soon as that happened, I was like, I'm competitive. I hate getting tapped. I'm gonna try to kill everybody now. So I obviously signed up, and I went from doing like 1 to 2 days a week for the first month to then I got a job at a cell phone company again. And I told them for religious purposes, I had to be off by 5 o'clock every night because I knew they couldn't turn that down. I was like, ask me and I'll sue you.
It's amazing, bro.
And I was like, I need to be off 5 for religious purposes. And they're like, "What religion do you do?" I was like, "None your business."
Oh my gosh.
So then I worked every morning at 8, got off at 5, and then went and got beat up Monday through Thursday night because that's the nights we had classes. And I did that for about 2 to 3 weeks. And then I wanted to learn how to fight. So I was like, okay, like I'll learn how to punch stuff. Thinking also, again, "Oh, I've done that before. It'll be okay." No, it's never okay. It's never okay. I don't care how much you've done stuff until you do it like in a room with killers or even kind of killers. It's not the same. So then I went one night and I showed up early, and the guy, Jake, who got me into it, was getting ready for a title fight. I was like, okay. And the coach Jeremy, who is my coach still, was like, "Hey, nobody else showed up tonight because everybody was busy. Let's put on some gear, even though you're doing basic stand up now, and you guys will spar a little bit. Like, we'll go light." And I was like, okay. I'm like, "Oh, that'll be fine. Yeah, cool." And I again got the shit beat out of me. Like, for
Going
30
light.
minutes, I got punched and kicked in the head and wrestled. And I was like, got done. I was like, well, that was fun. And of course, I had a man bun at the time, so I'm like shaking my head and like being all cool and stuff when I had hair. And I was like, okay, like this sucked, but it was awesome. You know, like the kind of it sucks, but it's awesome, but it sucks. Kind of like running. Like, I don't do it, but for those who like to do it, I'm like, great, have a fun time. I'm not fucking doing it. This was the same thing, except I'm like, I'm gonna keep doing it because I
Right.
obviously like this whole cult atmosphere. We like to beat each other up, like Fight Club type stuff. So let's just keep this going. And so I came back, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to train 5 days a week. And then we added another class. And I was like, cool, I'm going to train 6 days a week. And now I train 2 to 3 times a day, 7 days a week.
It's incredible.
So on the average week now, I put in, with my strength and conditioning, I put in about 18 sessions that are anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours.
Wow, bro.
So it is a full-time job for sure.
That's incredible. And you know what's funny is because like I love how you joined jujitsu because you broke up with your girlfriend, and now your partner, she does jujitsu, correct?
Yes, correct.
So you found love again.
I found the right person, because the only downside is that when you're laying in bed trying to watch TV, and like, so she's like, the belts are white belt, blue belt, purple, brown, black. I'm brown. She's blue. She just wants to choke me out all the time to try to help me make her better. So like, you'll be like cuddling watching a movie, and then I'll like have to like grab her arm and be like, "Honey, I love you, but we're not choking each other out right now." She's like, "You never let me work." I love her to death. Vanessa, I love you. But she's like, "You never let me work." And I'm like, "We're watching a movie. We can do this after." And then hopefully she'll forget after and want to just go to bed, so I can like not do that today. But there's been like at least like 6 jujitsu matches on our bed alone in the last like 2 months.
Dude, that's hilarious.
So
it's I'll call that Netflix and choke.
Yes, really, that's really what it is. It's fantastic. I wouldn't have it any other way though, like, because she understands.
Beautiful.
And she understands like the side of training, so she doesn't ask me to miss. She doesn't like ask me to not go to class, and she'll come to class with me too. So it's just like she has her own gym, so we train at separate gyms, so we have like our own spaces still.
That's
which
good.
is really important. Like I didn't want her to feel like I was taking over her space because I cross train at her gym, Ignite MMA, off North Oak with Zach Cummings for their pro MMA class. A lot of the guys there who are like on the cusp of the UFC or have like been on Dana White's Contender Series, so they're right there. So it's a really good look for me, especially being pro also, that I get those rounds. And him and Jason High, both of those guys, I get looks with them and I get to spar with them. They're both black belts and have been in the UFC and a lot of big promotions. And so that was her gym, and that's how we met. Is she punched me in the face at a class,
That's amazing.
but she had a boyfriend at the time, so I had to like wait and kind of like stay in the shadows, for like a year. And then as soon as she was single, I was like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?
That's amazing.
Like, you look real good with that hair up. Like, how you hanging out? Uh, Joey from Friends type shit." But
That's amazing,
uh,
bro.
so yeah, so it was really cool. And so like I make sure like I respect her space, and like I go to a couple classes there, but she doesn't go to those classes. So it kind of lets her still, I try to respect that space in the sense of like that's her gym and that's what she's trying to do. And I don't want her to feel like I'm invading it or like invading her space or trying to like step on her toes at her gym. And then she obviously comes to mine sometimes in cross trains. And so I like that too.
Love that, man. I love that so much, dude. So very interesting. So I think, covering your journey to hurting people is very, very clear. And you're obviously very good at it.
I try.
And you've won, was it what your
Last two in a row.
last two in a row, right? And
Yeah, so I
so
moved up to 205 pounds. I used to fight at 185,
whew,
and that was just like a rough cut. My brain just wasn't very happy,
mm.
and my life was terrible. It was before I dated my girlfriend, so that's probably also good. But I moved up to 205, and it's just a lot better. The weight cut's a lot better. My brain's a lot happier. I'm a lot
Right.
happier. Yeah, undefeated at 205 and 2-fight win streak right now. Looking for 3 in June. So June I should fight again.
Dude, that's amazing, man. So, how did you get to this journey of healing people professionally, right? And you've talked about that
Yeah,
too, about professionalism as a trainer is so key.
yeah,
When did you go legit, and why fascia as well?
yeah. So I started about, I would say, around the same time I started jujitsu because I was trying to find a way to train more without
Mm,
like MMA having a real schedule, like an 8 to 5, because you want to go to the afternoon classes and I wanted to be able to work out. And it's hard to get away for all of those unless you like 6 a.m. and I hate 6 a.m. Um, I went and I got a job at this gym in Kansas City, and I kind of started my personal training journey. And I was there for about 2 to 3 years just doing personal training. And then COVID happened. COVID happened, all the gyms shut down, you can't do anything. And so we all kind of got let go with, hey, we'll hire you back when gyms open back up. But
15 days.
we, yeah. So I was like, well, we're not going to do that. So I started my own business, Stay Ready Performance and Recovery. And I hadn't even really come up with a name yet. I just started training people. And I was like, okay, like I had a little side job. I was doing like a little security job. So I was like, we'll just see how this goes, see if my clients want to train, if they want to get out of the house. After the 15 days was 2.5, 3 months, I was like, you guys must be going crazy because I'm going nuts. I was like doing battle ropes in my apartment, pissing off all my neighbors, and like took a ground and pound bag home from the gym, and I was like throwing it over my hip and hitting it with elbows, and I was like, whatever.
Sounds like Jumanji up there.
Yeah, well, it's really awkward when you're like in like some Valley Tudo shorts, which is basically just spandex shorts, and your t-shirt all tucked in, and your neighbor knocks on the door and you open it, and you're like, "What's up?" And they're like, eating a bag of Cheetos. And they're like, "Can you just be a little quieter?" And I'm like, "Sure can try." And you shut the door and you instantly go back to just slinging battle ropes around and shit. It's a great time. But so the better time was when you did that outside and everybody's looking at you like, what the is wrong with this dude? But so I started my business and I really didn't even have a name or like a lot going on. And I started training out of this gym called Aaron Fit, which was off North Oak. And we had a garage door, so we were allowed to be open kind of during COVID and stuff. And then about 3 years ago, 3.5, I got sponsored by this massage company, and one of the ladies did fascial stretch therapy. And I was like, okay, like I'd been looking into it and had heard about it, and I knew some people who did it in Texas, and I was like, man, I really want to like get this. So
And what is
I was
fascial what is fascia? Can you just define that for our
yeah, so
listeners too?
you kind of have like two layers of it without getting into the weeds. You have superficial, which is you have like your epidermis, and then you go to fascial tissue, like superficial fascia tissue. Say that 10 times. And then you go your subdermis, and then you have your deep fascial tissue. And then you kind of have your bones and organs and all that kind of stuff.
Got it.
So what it is like if you see those guys who are like in those green screen suits where it covers their whole body and there's no holes or anything, right? Or like the little like morph suits or whatever where people run around and it's like all silver or blue or black or whatever. The fascia is kind of like that. It goes from like the top of your head all the way down to the bottom of your feet. No holes, no cuts, no slits, no anything. And it just works as a whole system. And it's like a bunch of layers of little paper. And in between each layer is this acid called hydroluric acid. And what it does is it allows that paper to kind of move and slide on each other. So your fascial tissue just slides and moves. And what happens is when you get like a bruise or you pull something or things like that, that acid dries out and that becomes really sticky. And so then when you start moving your shoulder and you're like, oh, that's really, really tight. Sometimes it's not even muscular. It can be, but usually it's your fascial tissues just dried out. And it's kind of like, looks like somebody who lives in Arizona. It looks like leather. Yeah. So then you can't move it correctly. And everything else is trying to move because your whole body's connected. But this one spot's pinned down. So everything else is getting messed up. Right?
Wow, bro.
It's just a weird thing. You have two layers of that. You have your superficial and you have your deep fascial network. So you have two layers of that, and both can act independently of their own volition. They can do whatever they want. They can tighten up wherever they want, things like that. Like people, if you've ever heard of like compartment syndrome in your calves, like people get it. It's basically where like the calf won't like process any like blood out or anything. So your calves get too tight. It usually happens in people who are overweight. And there gets too much pressure because the fascial tissue around your calf is so tight because it has to hold your Achilles and all your muscles and everything together. And that's why when you work out calves, they hurt for like 6 days because it takes a long time for your calf to pull all that lactic acid out.
Right.
Well, people, they get this surgery called a fascialectomy, and they literally cut all the fascia off your calf so that it can breathe so you don't get compartment syndrome and like have to have your legs amputated and stuff.
Gosh.
But fascia stretch therapy can actually help reverse compartment syndrome before it gets too bad because we stretch that fascia and get it to move again.
Wow.
What happens is with fascia stretching, it's similar. I would say it's kind of like you mix yoga and a massage together. So like yoga, you get this really nice range of motion and it's really good for your joints. And then a massage, you get this release and you get this like healing aspect, right? And you get a healing aspect with yoga too. But now, instead of you having to move everything, you get to lay on a table in your yoga clothes because you're not naked, unlike a massage where you have to be, pretty much in your birthday suit. And you mix them together. And so then now it's, hey, come in your workout clothes. I'll work on you for an hour and we're going to loosen up this whole network of fascial tissue on your body. And you might have like something pinching in your shoulder, but I loosen something in your back and that helps unpinch the thing in your shoulder.
Wow.
So it's all this connection. Like most of the time I work on people and the first time I work on them, I get usually like 7 to 8 cracks between their back, like their back cracking, elbow, shoulder. And it's not for me trying to crack them or be a chiropractor because I don't have any training in that. I'm not trying to do it. It's just it's loosening up and it's allowing their bones to just move back to where they need to move correctly.
That's incredible. And so you got exposed to that from the gal who was doing that sort of therapy.
Yeah. And so I got exposed to that. And she one day was joking. She's like, you should go get certified so you can work on me because there's nobody else in the area that did it. And I was like, okay. Like, I was like, haha, that's funny. And then I looked into it. And I'm like, I was thinking you had to have like a massage like degree or license or something. And no, because it's a therapy. So you just had to go and do the training. So you do about 10 to 20 hours of kind of pre-training, learning the anatomy and stuff like that. And then watching videos and just kind of checking off the training boxes. It's not hard. And then you go down to Arizona or up to Arizona, over, down. Yeah. To
For
Arizona,
us, yeah.
over and down. Over
Southwest.
and down. Yeah. And you go to Chandler, Arizona, and they have an institute out there. And you're there from a Monday, like Sunday to Sunday. And you go every day from 8 to 5. And you're taught from the head people who created this system how to work on people. And you work on people every day, all day, the other students. And you do that for about 5 to 6 days. So it's about 40-ish hours. And then you have to pass a practicum, like a practical, and then you get certified. And then you're certified, right? So then you can be covered by them and they put you on their website. Well, there's 4 levels. So there used to only be 3, and I'm number 3. So I've done that. I've gone out to Arizona and done the pre-work 3 times. So I've spent about 120 to 150 hours of hands-on work. And then like 40 to 50, I would say 40 hours of like pre-work. And then I've also got certified in cupping. So that's like the cups you see. It was really made popular by like Michael Phelps back in the day in the Olympics.
Right. Everybody
And
needs to go to your Instagram to see that too, by the way.
yes,
Yeah, because you
so
show
Stay
how
Ready
it's
Performance.
That's right.
And I actually got certified through the guys who worked on Michael Phelps because they made their own one. Because there's Eastern, kind of like Chinese Eastern medicine approach to cupping, which is like how much they bruise and what color they turn and things like that. Has things to like you have toxins in your body or your cheese messed up or things like that, which is all valid like in their culture and everything like that. But there's also a scientific approach, which is the Western side, which is our side. And these guys took people they put cups on people. They were all physical therapists and physiotherapists. They put cups on people and then put them into MRI machines so they could see how much the cup like affected the tissue. And like they were seeing like full amounts like of muscle and tissue and fascial tissue pulled up into this cup, and it like kind of makes an anchor point. So then you can still move the body. So instead of just like laying on a table and getting cupped and having like 100 cups on you, they put 5 to 6, and then we do have you do an exercise or a movement to kind of stretch that whole piece of your body out and really work through that whole. Because again, they take a your body is connected approach versus like a mechanic where it's like, oh, your radiator's bad. Let's pull out your radiator,
Yeah,
put it in
it's
a new
that
one.
one spot, localized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not your body. That's the whole thing. It's like we can't take your spine out, put a new spine in, and you work fine, right? We can't take your heart out, put a new heart in, and there's no complications, right? Like there's some type of, usually with heart transplants, there's some type of like complication. Either you have to be on medicine the rest of your life or things like that. With your car, you don't have to do that. So, and people get heart replacements, transplants, and then they're like, oh, like I feel like I get dizzier now, or oh, I faint sometimes, or oh, I've picked up a craving for this food because the person who had it before me like had that same craving, right? Like it's in the DNA of the heart. Same with liver or pain, whatever they decide to change out. And it's like we can't do that with the body. So you have to take a different approach to the body as it's a whole. It's a whole organism. It's a whole thing, and it's living. Your skin is living. It moves on its own. It grows. It has reactions to outside forces.
It's the biggest organ we have.
Yes,
It's
100%.
our body's biggest organ, and that's lost on us most of the time because we just consider that's my skin. But
Yes.
truly.
So I have a really big passion for it because being someone who I've had issues with injuries in the past when I first started MMA and jiu-jitsu, and from being a big guy, I had a lot of back issues that I wanted to find a way to help people and really care about people. Because as an athlete, not that I'm like on the biggest stage yet, which I will be, it is that people look at you as a finite resource. Like you're going to run out eventually. Just like people in football look at running backs as they're replaceable. Like we got new running backs every year, and running backs are treated terrible, right? Wide receivers a little better. Quarterback's really good. Wide receivers kind of terrible. Running backs are like the flavor of the day. You
Dime
just
a
get a new
dozen,
one,
basically.
right?
Yep.
Can you run hard? Can you run fast? And will you do it and tear your body up, right? But nobody cared. And then once I had that jiu-jitsu background already, I was like, well, like my brain and my body understand how to break something, like how to break the body down mechanically and cause a tear or a rip or a pain. Doing that the other way, I should know what feels good to help something fix and feel better. And I actually did this class with this black belt from Hawaii, and he does fascial stretch therapy, and he was teaching us some stuff. And he's like, I honestly believe, and I already come to this conclusion, but he just kind of backed it up. I can hurt someone in the most effective way and efficient way. So I believe that allows me to heal someone in the most effective and efficient way. Like it's again that duality of yin and yang. Like you have to know both sides of it. Sometimes the best cops make the guys who are a little bit on the other side before they were 18 and they kind of knew the dirty side of things.
Yep.
Not in a bad way of like being convicted or being criminal, because you have to have certain things to be a cop, but you still have to pass certain things. But they knew enough that they knew how to do the job correctly and not be that guy or that cop
Yeah.
that was the bad side of things, right?
You got to understand, and it's funny, bad example, training day, when he says it takes a wolf to catch a wolf, Jake, right?
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
you do have to understand what a monster thinks like in order to fight monsters, or
Yeah.
predator mindset.
Like there's another book, it's called Relentless. It's by Michael Jordan's coach or his strength
Whoa.
and conditioning coach. And he had another book come out years later called Winning, which if you're going to read either of the two, read Winning because it's way better for people who want to have a life, like a family life and be a competitor. In Relentless, he goes down a really, really dark fucking path. He talks about just like everybody who's been good in basketball, like because he worked with some of the best athletes in the world in basketball mainly, that they had a dark side. Like they had their persona, like, and then like they were like, you're born relentless. Like as a baby, you don't know good or bad or anything like that, right? But you're taught to relent. Like you're taught manners, you're taught society's expectations of you, you're taught what's good and what's bad. And some people don't adhere to those and they become quote unquote relentless. And those are the dudes who are like maybe criminals or they don't approach the law. But when it comes to sports, those guys, they have that dog in them. Like they have that win all, be all, do all, like I don't take rest days type mentality. But in that book, he, without ruining it or kind of saying too much, he just goes on to like, you have to be this certain way to be this high level athlete. And like, he talks about who was it? Charles Barkley, I think. He talks about he got in trouble in a nightclub one time because he threw a dude out of the first floor window of his club because the dude threw ice on him, right? Because they lost the game or something. And once the judge had like cleared him and he didn't get any sentences, the judge was like, "What would you have done different?" And he's like, because the guy pressed charges, he's like, "I would have taken him up to the second story and pushed him out of that one so he couldn't press charges." And like that was after he got the sentence cleared and everything. Obviously, he was smart enough not to say it before the judge sentenced him, which he didn't get anything but a slap on the wrist. And like they're like, you don't fuck with Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those dudes, and Jordan was the same way. All these things, and it's like, you know. But he also talks about you have to like, can you control your darkness or does it control you? And so sometimes you have to like quit doing whatever is your dark side. Maybe it's gambling or drugs or whatever it is. Like, does it control you or do you control it? And some guys find out like, I can control it, but it's not as fun. So they like make sure they.
Right.
But then Winning, he takes a look and he's like, hey, like at the end of it, it's basically like spending time and like being a good dad is winning if that's your choice. Like he kind of like had his own existential moment in life, and I think as the years went by, because it came out like a couple, like 5, 6, 7 years later,
Wow.
and I think he just eventually came to this conclusion that like each person has their own thing that they can win at that doesn't have to be this dark side of things. So I like took both of those, and like I also read what's his name? The dude who runs all the time and he's a Marine. I can't think of his
David
name.
Goggins.
I read his like "You Can't Hurt Me" book.
Can't hurt me. So good.
Like, that dude almost made
So
me
good.
cry during that book. Like I
Yes,
listened to
sir.
it because I drive a lot, and I was like I'll fall asleep reading. That's just like if you're gonna let my nervous system come down and read, I'm gonna just pass out and be asleep.
Dude.
So I listen to a lot, but like it's those guys who make you feel like you're not alone. So yeah, so that's kind of how I got a long-winded way of saying that's how I got to that hurt and heal side. Is
Just
I felt like I knew enough about hurting people that I could really truly help people heal.
Yeah, and that's dude, I just love hearing you talk about this. For me, joined jujitsu later in life. The injury thing is real, and a big part of that
Yeah.
too is it's so hard to get blood flow to like the tendons and like some of these smaller areas. And so that's like where the research I've done on the cupping too is, you got that fascia, but it's pulling that blood there, it can heal. And so often like dudes, like we think we're so much tougher than we are, right? We just get in there, get our asses beat, get injuries that take, months to heal. And so I see that value 100%. And since you started to go there too, one thing I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about this during our time today, but like you as a man, bro, like I love how you've had, this journey of making yourself small, then finding out your true potential, finding ways to unlock that. Now you're helping other people unlock that in themselves. And I love how, you said, like, I was listening to David Goggins. I'm assuming it was the audiobook, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I have the audiobook, which he reads, and I have the physical version, so I could bookmark the hell out of
Which
it.
I will say most of the audiobooks, side note, of like these guys, like they read them themselves.
Yeah.
Or they like
Yep.
have interviews in between the chapters. Like
Yep.
the audiobooks are way
Yep.
better than the normal one.
Yeah, Goggins, I think both of them, he has the interviews between chapters, or maybe it's his second book. But, for you, man, like, so the capability of violence, and you restrain it, and you are a dangerous but good man, right? So what's your perspective as you have worked with other men who, are struggling in the way that you used to, and
Yeah.
how are you finding ways to kind of wake up like sleeping giants in our area, bro, or even inspire? Like, last thing I'll say, just your last fight, like all those people around you that came out to see you in that group photo, that put me on the edge of tears, because I know I've watched your story, I've listened to you talk, and I go, man, like, you're finding a way to pour into other people. So, what's your perspective too for like young men, and just even like older guys that, like, they're just starting to wake up, dude?
Yeah, a lot of it, man, I was really angry all the time. Like, I think a lot of men were very, very angry, and I wouldn't say don't know why, but we don't understand how to figure out why. Like, I was a very, very angry young teen, and I would let things boil up and then boil over. And so, like, I remember I was like 16, and my sister, she just was the person, like, we're really, really close. She's 5 years older than me, but she, like, just kept pecking at something and then said I disrespected her somehow at church. And that wasn't my intention. And especially in front of like people that she was like working there, and she actually worked there and had like people under her, and I disrespected her in front of those. And we had like maybe a 5 minute drive from the church to our house at the time. And I just remember like sitting there and stewing and like feeling like I was on fire just because I was so angry. And it wasn't even that she was the one who made me this angry. It was just, again, I was a people pleaser. Like I tried to stay in this little box, this set form of what a man should be or could be or has to be, and like what's okay for me to do. Like life says guys can do A, B, or C. You fall into a box, that's what you do, blah, blah, blah. And it's just been things over months that would build up, or even a year, multiple years. And she just was like the last thing that made it, like she was like the last fucking thing that made the volcano explode. And we get home and she says one more thing, like just one more thing, just to like hit her point home. And I just blow up, like yelling, screaming. I'm Italian. We know how to yell like a mother. Like I'm Italian and Native American. So either one's gonna be crazy or one's gonna yell like a son of a bitch. So, and my dad's downstairs. My dad was a cop growing up, so he like, in a good way, he gave me a very good role model. But I just started yelling, like top of my voice, like losing my voice yelling. Like the next day, I could barely talk. And he comes upstairs and he's like, "What the hell?" And I was like, "Your daughter, blah blah blah." Like, of course, I didn't cuss back then. If I did, I probably would have called a lot of things, and that would have been way worse for me too. But I just went off. I just, at that moment, I was like 14 or 15, and I didn't know why I exploded. And I didn't know why I was so mad at her over some little shit that didn't really matter. So then at 14, I'm like, I don't know. Like, at 14, your hormones are crazy. You don't know what's going on. I'm still overweight. I don't understand how to lose weight, or how, like, my buddies who are, fit and active and girls like them, but they don't like me, all this different stuff. And then I'm trying to figure out why I'm yelling at my sister, and why it's not okay, why it's okay for her to chew me out because she's 5 years older. So she was like 19, almost 20 at the time. Why it's okay for her to chew me out, but I get mad and a little loud and I'm in trouble. Like different things, like why a man can't do that, why a man can't do this, and just different things like that. And then as I get older, like that happens. I apologize, and I get a little grounded or whatever for being upset. And I'm like, hey, you need to talk about your feelings. So like I talk about my feelings from that point on. But that didn't help. Like I still every couple months or every year or two let this stuff build up and get mad. And I finally got to a point in my early 20s, and I was still doing it. Like I would still let people get pissed off. Just now I hit it, and I would like get in my car and yell or scream or, whatever it was, or, go. And I remember one time I was like probably 19, 18. And one of my buddies like jokingly kicked me in the nuts, right? Like it happened.
Jokingly.
Yeah. I don't know how it happened, but again, I was that pushover guy at the time. So it happened. And I just remember being so pissed. And I was never that dude to hit anything. And I went and I punched the wall. And I was like, why did I do that? Why, again, was I still doing the same repetitive action of blowing up? Like, I don't want to be this person. I don't want to, at that time I was like, I want to have kids someday, do all these things. Like, why am I not in control of my emotions? And why am I not in control and processing things correctly? So then I kept getting older. And then I kind of got to starting to fight, and I thought I was better about these things. And I still, in jiu-jitsu and MMA helped, but I still had issues. And I'd worked through a lot. I was doing a lot of these self-help books and trying to do these things. And then I got in contact with this dude named Caleb Rogers. He's a mental sensei, is his handle on Instagram. He's a local KC guy. And he's like a mental coach for executives and fighters. And he started out with fighters. He's worked with guys in the UFC. He's worked with NFL players, all that stuff. And so I started working with him. And I think I've worked with him for 7 years now, pretty much through fight camps. But when I first started, it was really okay, I want to work through fight camps. I want to do all these things. And at that time, I'd gotten better about my emotions. I'd gotten better about letting things roll off my back, but I still tucked things away here and there that pissed me off, and still would feel that burning desire, that burning and that I'm going to explode feeling. But MMA and jiu-jitsu kind of helped chill that out because it would let me get aggression out. But he and I kind of unraveled what caused that? Why was I doing that? What is a man? What is a real man? What do I believe a man is? What pressures do I put on myself? You know? And then it started to teach me those things of control what you can control and let other things kind of go in that wayside, right? I thought as a man I had to control every aspect of my life, even the things I couldn't control, right? We sit and we look at our day, we look at our bills, we look at our relationships, we look at our families, and it's I need to control my bills, I need to control my finances, I need to control my relationships. But the thing is okay, I can control my bills. Those are a status quo. Those come every month. I can make my monthly nut to pay those, right? I can feel a certain way, but I can control how I react to that feeling, right? My relationships, there's two people involved there, you and the other person. And you aren't some hypnotist or some supervillain or superhero that can control somebody, right? So they have their own way they react to your feelings. And they might not react the same way that you would to that because of their own trauma, their own past hindrances or relationships or domestic abuse or whatever it is. And so then I would get so pissed in those instances because I couldn't control it and make it all perfect. I couldn't make my relationships perfect. I couldn't make myself perfect. I couldn't make the outcome perfect. Girls would cheat on me. Girls would, I couldn't, nothing I did made things work. And so I had to start approaching things differently and just understanding people are going to do what they want to do. And that has no weight on me as a person and on my character and my personal development. Right. And so it just became this big learning thing, learning control what I can control, meditate through the things that I don't have control over that really frustrate me. Taking a look and being okay, emotionally intelligent, let's look, how does this make that person feel and would I want that done to me? And then communicating effectively, even in a relationship I now have with my girlfriend Vanessa, I've still fallen short in communicating effectively with her on different things. I'm not perfect. And so I've still fallen short on certain things. I'm sure if she watches this, which she probably will, one thing I fall short on is I don't like to admit when I don't feel good or when I'm hurt because it doesn't help. It doesn't help my training. It doesn't help my sleep. It doesn't help anything. All it does is mentally, it gives me an out to not go do things.
Mm.
It allows me to me saying, oh, I don't feel good. Right now I have a little raspy voice. I've been stopped up. I don't know if it's allergies. I don't know if I'm sick, whatever. People ask me, oh, do you feel sick? Or, oh, are you sick? And I'm like, no, just allergies. And I don't know what it is. I don't have a fever, different things. But to me, growing up, we always did things, even if we felt like shit. My parents always went to work. Unless you couldn't drive or you were throwing up or you were contagious, you went to work, right? And so that's how I grew up. And so I just learned, like, when I would, and my mental coach Caleb kind of helped me with this, like when I would say I'm sick or I don't feel good or oh my neck hurts or oh my back hurts. Now I respect those things and I like take care of them in practice, but I would start giving myself outs and start giving myself validity, and it's okay not to go to training. And, as long as I don't get anybody else sick or things like that, then I'm okay with it. Just because they have stuff coming up too and fights coming up too. But as soon as I give myself an out, because I train so much and I go so many days a week and I do so much and I try to do everything as a professional, I'll start pulling back and take myself out of it. And I can't do that. Like, I'm not young in the fight game. I'm 33. I've been training for 9 years. I'm young in the sense of I haven't done a lot with my body because I was so fat for so long. But
Mm,
now, but now, it's like having a 92 car that only has 30,000 miles on it. Like, it's 30 years old, but it only has 30,000 miles on it. You know what I mean?
right.
So for me, I have a lot to push my body through. Unlike, the guy who's 23, but he's wrestled since he was 5. So he's a 20-year-old car, but he got 400,000 miles on it.
Mm,
So that's kind of how I look at it. But as soon as I start putting that check engine light, warning light on because I don't feel good or something hurts, I start doubting myself. I start losing confidence, or I start allowing myself to pull back out of training because I don't feel okay. So, like, one thing with her is like, she'll be like, you're sick. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And she's like, why can't you just admit you're sick? And it's not that it's her fault or it's where I have a problem with admitting I'm sick. In that sense, it's just, I don't want to give myself an out. And even if I say it to her, being my like best friend and the person I can confide in, it still tells my brain I have an out. Right. So it's not that I'm like, okay, no, I don't think I have something going on. But as soon as that verbally comes out of my mouth, that changes the way my brain is going to process it. I can think it all day long. But as soon as it comes out of my mouth, it's like what I say is my word. Like, they even have done
absolutely.
studies on it. Like, women need to communicate their problems a lot more. Like, scientific studies have been done that it helps women to de-stress by talking and venting about their problems, right?
Yep.
Then it actually adds to our stress. As soon as we start talking about our problems and venting about them, it makes that more real to us, and then it allows us, and they actually see the stress markers go up in men,
Yep. Yep.
right? So that's why when somebody asks, like, hey man, like, how are you doing financially? Oh, I'm great. You might be a little struggling, but you're not going to say you're struggling because, one, now you think that person thinks you're struggling, and two, now you're worried about it and thinking about it more, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah. I
that's kind of it.
Man, so much of that resonates with me too, and I feel like too a lot of what you're saying. And by the way, just thank you for just being so real, dude. Like, you not holding anything back ever, bro. Like, in all the talks I've seen with you, you're so honest about, your motivation and what you do when you're not motivated and all that. And I feel like too there's part of this as well, like this, what a lot of what you just named is not only like the burden of men, but the burden of purpose driven dudes, right? Like, I feel like, that there's that saying, like, nothing worth having comes without a fight. And I feel like I've had to fight for everything that I've gained,
Yeah.
right, in my life,
Yeah.
especially recently coming out of traditional mindsets. Like, the things that now that you were never taught in, school, public school, whatever, like the things you've had to learn as a business owner as well. Like, just
Oh, yeah.
my gosh, bro, like the list never ends. But there is something about this where I'd never thought about it that way before, because I've been in therapy, I've had counselors, and I've been in different men's groups, and I've been part of different fireside groups and things like that to process emotions. And there is a limit I have on talking about my problems. Like, it's not like I won't, but there is definitely a limit to where if I exceed that, like, then I'm gonna start actually helping those monsters grow in a way. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
You
I'd
start feeding
rather
them.
go do something. I'd rather go be, and I know that about myself too. Like, I have to be doing hard things. What's the saying? Men are like trucks. They drive better when they've got a heavier load, right? Like, if I've
That's a good
got
saying.
something, and I know you're a dog guy, right? Like, German shepherds, Belgian Malinois, all these dogs,
Yeah.
these are work dogs. Like, they need
Yeah.
to know that they're doing something and worthwhile. And Man, it's been so good speaking with you, bro. What would you like to sign us off with, man? What did we not cover or that you feel like prompted to kind of share before we say goodbye here?
Honestly, man, I think with saying all that, that none of this means that, like, and what I'm saying is you can't talk to like your significant other, right? Like there's a lot of male spaces out there right now on Instagram. There's, the Tate brothers. There's, like the Miami After Dark or whatever it is, and like the whatever podcast and all these podcasts that kind of have these guys that are in these male spaces that are just, they're almost trying to flip the script and say that women have a certain place and men have a certain place. Yes, we both do. We're different genders, we're different people. We both have things we're great at and things we're sucky at. I'm better at some things than my girlfriend. My girlfriend's way better at some things than I am. And that's just how it goes. But I would say this, like, for men, being a strong man doesn't mean you can't communicate with your partner. It doesn't mean you can't like say something to your partner or be with them or say anything or anything like that. It just means that for me, what it means is like I can communicate everything to my girlfriend, everything that's going on in my life, but I'm always going to have a plan to fix it before I communicate it to her. Like if I come home and let's say I lost my job, I'm going to come home, tell her, hey, I lost my job. Let's say I had a normal 9 to 5. And then as soon as I say that, I would also say, I've already put in 6 calls today to other jobs and put in 17 applications. Now, what that does, in my opinion, is that allows you to, one, be vulnerable and open with your significant other, which is what they want, right? Like they want us to be vulnerable and open. And then, but it also shows them that you have a plan and that you're still like, for lack of a better word or a better explanation, I know some people don't like it. Like you're the leader of the household. Like you have, whether you make more money than her or not, like you came home with a plan so that she doesn't have to stress. Because your goal as a man is to create a safe space and a place for your person to be feminine, right? Like it's allowing her to grow in that. The world is so hard and so dark and so mean to men and women, but women are supposed to be, no, don't get me wrong, strong, independent, great. My girlfriend is all of those things. She's very independent, very strong, but she knows with me, she can be soft. She can be sad. She can be scared, all those things. And she can come and confide in me, and I'm going to protect her from the world. And so it is a guy's job, in my opinion, as a protector, which is what my coach says all the time, to create that space and create a place for her to be those things. That doesn't mean she's submissive or she's controlled or any of those things. The Bible, in my opinion, we take the very literal when it comes to like a man is supposed to submit to her husband or a woman is supposed to submit to her husband. We take that very literally, and that's where people get very enraged about it, right? They're like, oh,
Yep.
like I have to submit to him like he's the boss.
I got to do
No, it's
whatever
not
he
even that.
says, whenever he says,
Yeah,
whatever he want. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. It's not even that. It's no, like submit is a bad word. Let's change it to, hey, you are supposed to confide and rely on your husband. You can be independent. You can be strong. You can make more money than your husband. But at the end of the day, when everything hits the fan and you're sad or you're scared or your mom or dad passes away or your dog dies or whatever it is, you know that your man is a foundation for you, that he's founded on God first off, and that he is a foundation because he needs something bigger than himself to rely on. And if he tries to rely on you, that now creates a space for her, that is, she has to take a masculine role. So now she does have to be hard. Now she does have to not communicate her feelings. Now she thinks if she does like stress out and tell you that you're going to, she's going to break down even more. So it's not that you can't talk about your feelings, but when you talk about your feelings, have a plan to fix whatever is wrong so that way she can still see you as the foundation and the structure in her life that she can grow, because she is beautiful, right? Women are soft. They're beautiful. They should be special. They should have their own places. They should have their own sports. They should not have to compete against men. They are like a vine. When you put like a vine against the house and you have the little gondola that it can grow up, you should always be that gondola. If you turn into another plant, you just kill each other, right?
Mm,
So you have to be that foundation and that ability to let her grow and do whatever she needs to do and have that structure with her. That's what I would say for
absolutely.
men is just, if you take anything away from this, it's that you are seen, you are heard, you are not alone. Talk to other men. Find someone in your life who you feel like has it together and like talk to that other man, because that is a safe place for you to do that. And you can also talk to your significant other. Just make sure it's from a place of not strength per se, but of understanding what's not going good in your life and how do you plan to fix it so that they feel like you still have a communication of highway of both ways.
Absolutely. Brother James, thank you so much, man, for coming on the show, dude. We'll have to do this again, man, in the
Yeah, for
future
sure.
for sure. All right, everybody. You heard from James Regina, the man himself. Go out, follow his socials. We're going to have all of his links in the show notes. Make sure that, when these reels start dropping or after you've listened to this, we're going to have some highlights out there. Make sure you share them with folks. Definitely tap into what he's doing with Stay Ready and his pro MMA career. Thank you all. We
Sure.
appreciate you.
Thanks, brother.